Yeah. Well, that map, I can't remember. It's a while ago since I created it. And it's certainly not come out of my head. I must have been following something in all the literature about
Mm.
this idea that there is four phases to a Hakomi session. And I've just been looking in the trainer's manual, and it seems the one that Donna's created. And there's a lot of reference to phases and stages and it seems to be, maybe for some people quite helpful to have
Yeah.
this idea that there's this kind of like, one step and then the next step and then the next step.
Yeah, I think I think what you're saying about the helpful to have something to kind of imagine or to have as a framework
Mm,
for what a
mm,
session might look like. I think
Framework's a
that
good word.
is
Mm,
super helpful. And so yeah, to have a something that I can remember coming across like models, some of the different models of a Hakomi session, and that being so helpful in understanding what it is that we're doing.
yeah. And one of the lovely things about this sort of work, there's this sort of sense that, we've got a framework and we've practiced it over and over again. And it sort of creates this opportunity to come up with ideas for different sorts of practices that come under those sort of headings, but then it might not be exactly
Mm,
the ones that we've done before. I
mm,
really get the impression that, being creative
yeah.
and responsive, I think, also to the
Mm,
group, which is something that Trudy and I have always done. Being flexible enough to sort of go off piece
yeah.
from a plan.
Mm,
And I was remembering when we were in Lancaster last time, and we'd done this sort of foundational practice around that's called "What's in a Name," and there was one of the students that came up with the idea of actually not having her name spoken, but wanting to hear a term of endearment.
mm,
Um, and it made me sort of think that, you can tweak these really simple practices
yeah.
and they can be really powerful. And thinking, that came out of the group, really. She wanted to hear sweetheart,
Mm, mm,
and that was, it was kind of handcrafted in the
yeah.
moment. Yeah. I remember one of the things that Donna said to me in my training, or she didn't just say it to me, she said it to all of us, was about there are psychotherapy approaches where the intention is to amplify
Mm,
and turn up the noise to be
yeah.
able to study it. But Hakomi doesn't do that. Hakomi
No.
does the opposite, really. It's about quietening things down
Mm,
enough to be able to tune in to whatever's going on.
yeah. How I'm envisaging it is that we're working with a group of people who are really curious about that what's co-created with others, which is happening all the time, um, who have an experience of enough experience with Hakomi where we're not having to explain love and presence, where we're sort of able to allow perhaps a lot more depth in the questions and the inquiry that people are sort of personally asking of their own practice and their own relationships.
And there's something about sort of getting to 15 days or thereabouts, and that sort of familiarity and
Mm,
sort of confidence. I suppose there's a sort of confidence that's built around, like you
yeah.
say, their own process, but sort of like the vocabulary that there is
Mm,
in Hakomi, um, that people have got used to, that I guess makes them start to be curious about what it
mm,
looks like to
yeah.
what a Hakomi session looks like, actually. And while we're not wanting to demonstrate at all that there is a way, like there's, there is this kind of formula, and if you go through this formula, then you've done a Hakomi session. But there certainly are, phases. Really, there are phases in a session. Like you were using that word arc. There is that sort of like beginning, middle, and end to a cycle, even if it's not one session. What questions might people ask if they were thinking about doing this course?
Yeah, I can see how this would be great for practitioners who are starting to think less about their own personhood and more about how they sit with another, because it's more about the actual sort of arc of the Hakomi session, isn't it? What about non-practitioners, so people who are not actually practicing in a way where Hakomi is like feeding into their maybe CPD, maybe where it's more about a nourishing experience.
Just wanted to hang out with us and in that sort of like Hakomi space.
Yeah, because we're always reading a context, we're always making contact and attuning to the other. There's always the possibility of experimental being playful with another, and it's great to have an opportunity with others to find nourishment as well. So I can see ways in which it would be relevant not to practitioners.
The other question has been around, do people have to do all 4 days?
Yeah.
And when we were first talking about it, we thought that might be a really interesting thing to do, to offer that people did all 4 days, and that there's something that the group gets out of it as well by going through the whole process together. Then that's the ideal, really, that people do all 4 days, but that there is flexibility.
Was like clusters of practices that kind of fit with that theme in a similar way to how we often have a theme when we're doing a training weekend. A kind of a similar way of picking practices that fit with that theme of setting the context. Getting relaxed was the other one I thought of, the setting the context, not just the therapist state of mind, but also what's it like to get relaxed? What does that feel like?
Yeah. And how is that different maybe to everyday sort of, just kind of being in a room with other people to sort of like pay attention and calm things down, get pretty damn relaxed, as Ron Curtis says.
Yeah, so it feels like there's something really magical about the way we can create something together, and that feels a parallel in both the trainings and also the sessions that we do with clients, to know that it's not just all down to me or to the participants or the client to create things. It's something that we do together, and that does feel like magic to me.
It was such a relief to me when I sort of got that when I was doing my training, that it's not it's like there's not a lot of effort in it, but it's the discipline really to let go of the efforting. That was a sort of like a light bulb moment for me. It's like, phew.
Like Hakomi has come to mean a sense of home in how I experience it. So I definitely recognize that sense of home that comes from this way of working.
Isn't it exciting?
Yeah, it is. It's really exciting.
Yeah.